Hello, welcome to Jurassic Park 3 Minute. We'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel, one bit at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And on this episode, we'll be discussing minute 80 of Jurassic Park 3. But Dave, before we get to that, over at Jurassic-Pedia.com, we have a little article up here about the whole military rescue that we see last minute and this next couple of minutes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Done by Tyrannosaur TJ, and has a good little write-up here of what we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, this was one of those ones that I didn't. This was originally by Tyrannosaur TJ, and this was one of the ones I just added one of the pictures to. You know.
Yep. And of course, we have here the what these amphibious vehicles are, and the SH-60 Seahawks as well that we see flying to and from the island in these minutes.
Yeah, nice big panorama picture there, and of course, little small recap of how we got here, and a recap of the scene itself.
And that beautiful Hawaiian waters in the background.
Oh yeah, really. And if you see further off from the shore, probably CGI. You can see what looks to be possibly another one of the amphibious vehicles coming off onto the shore, and two carriers out on the horizon.
Yep. So yeah, head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com for that article and a lot more on the Jurassic franchise.
Mm-hmm.
You have to thank her now. She sent the Navy and the Marines.
God bless you, Ellie.
Alright, Dave, ready to get into minute 80.
Yeah.
As we enter minute 79 of Jurassic Park 3, Second Squadron landed on the beaches of Isla Sorna in the amphibious landing craft. Eric looked on in amazement and told Grant, "You have to thank her now. She sent the Army and the Marines." And as we start minute 80, Grant just smiles and says, "Bless you, Ellie." At the 7-second mark, as Jurassic Park militarised theme picks up, we pull back to see the survivors walking towards the Marines as they all stand there with their guns, waiting for an attack that'll never come. At the 14-second mark, we cut inside one of the Seahawk helicopters as the man with the bullhorn asks Grant, "Is this man with you?" Grant's confused and says, "What?" At the 26-second mark, Grant squats down beside a heavily bandaged man, and we realise it's Billy. Billy smiles warily at Grant and says, "Hey, you made it." He reaches under the gurney and pulls out a badly beaten hat. He says, "Hey, I rescued your hat." Grant's choked up and replies, "Well, that's the important thing." At the 54-second mark, second squad load back in the amphibious crafts and make to leave the island. And as the minute ends, up above, the Seahawk helicopters have taken off. They're heading out over the ocean towards the naval ships. As the militaristic JP theme here continues, we get Eric finishing the sentence from last minute. She sent the Navy and the Marines. And I mentioned earlier when we were back in the aviary and we got this sort of militaristic theme of the or version of Jurassic theme, and how I didn't seem to mind it there, and it's sort of always been one of those not really liking at the end of the film here, but as we did mention then, it has been used other places in the film series as well, so it's not as grating on me this time around watching it.
Yeah.
But we zoom past Eric to Grant, who just shakes his head slowly and says, "God bless you, Ellie." Amazed at how she seems to have moved heaven and earth to get these Marines here. Which we could bring up the question. We know at the start of the film we've seen the Coast Guard plane flying overhead. Do you reckon these vessels are in the area, in the vicinity? They'd have to be to get here this quick.
I'd imagine so. Yeah, it's possible that. Knowing the Navy, it's pretty. They'd be like buried under mountains of paperwork before they even launched. But it's a movie, so that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's likely they launched from a base off of the mainland and just sailed their way over to the island.
Yeah.
It takes. Probably around an hour or two to get there by helicopter. I imagine it wouldn't take much longer by boat. I was gonna say maybe a couple hours.
Yeah. Well, I could imagine the Seahawks being launched early and flown down to start the search before the support ships and that all got there. it's one of those things too. We do know from the end of the Lost World that there was a heavy Navy presence around the SS Venture as it went back to Sorna, and that would have slowly got smaller and smaller. The party there surrounding the islands after the incident, but we talked back then with that minute what exactly was still being patrolled, and that if there was poachers and that sort of thing going on the islands, how much of a force they had there to keep the animals or keep people off the island. But the group runs forward towards the landing craft and quickly surrounded by Marines, all joined by the guy in the suit. And that's when we cut inside a helicopter. The man in the suit leading the way, still holding his bullhorn, and he helps Eric inside. And as Grant enters, he says, "Dr. Grant, is this man with you?" And Grant answers, "What?" Sort of not knowing what he's talking about. And then the man in the suit points forward and down the chopper, and we move aft to. We see Eric get a big smile on his face as he realises who's laying there, and Amanda and Paul come in just as Grant squats down next to a gurney, and we see a heavily bandaged Billy lying on his back.
Yeah, I assume that Grant did not think that Billy survived that at all. So, in scripted, he actually didn't. So he would be very surprised to see him suddenly.
Yeah, definitely how those animals were pecking at him as he was going down those rapids and disappearing. Like we mentioned previously when we first started hearing the helicopter sounds too, that possibly that was this helicopter that had already gone and found him and was coming back towards the beach, and the man in black, or man in the suit, was already there. I would have liked just a peppering of some helicopter sounds maybe a little bit earlier in the film too, while they were walking through the jungle, just so they knew that the helicopters were there, but they had the next problem of trying to signal them, get to the beach and signal the choppers as well. But
it actually wouldn't have been a bad idea. That would have been it would have added tension to the ending here. So it's not just suddenly an abrupt ending. It's more, okay, the helicopters are there. How do we signal them? How do we get there, you know?
Yeah, well, that was the whole reason they're taking the parachute to the coast. So it would have been good for Grant to realise that he threw that flare gun away where maybe he could have used it again. But this is how we go out. They both smile at each other, and Billy says weakly, "Hey, you made it," and Grant replies, "Yeah." And that's when Billy says, "I rescued your hat," and pulls Alan's hat out from under the gurney. And behind them, the man in the suit says, "Dr. Grant, we need to go now." Last time we seen Alan wearing the hat was when they fell into the cage, or fell into the water with the cage behind him at the aviary. So it must have done a good job floating downstream with Billy for him to grab it again. And unlike the hat on Nublar, this one has been returned.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of one of those problems I have where I feel like it's like kind of being Indiana Jones, where, I mean, anybody who's ever watched Indiana Jones know that Indiana always gets his hat back. It's his lucky charm. And I almost kind of felt like they're doing that with the brown fedora in this movie, and really, was the hat really needed to return?
Well, it doesn't help when you got Randy Newman doing the song with it as well. But it's funny we bring this up because over at Indiana Jones Minute, they're just starting Crystal Skull, and they're discussing there about how in Crystal Skull the Indy's hat seems to have some sort of majestic properties where it has to be seen, it is Indiana Jones, that hat. So seeing it here as well.
Well, I mean, even the poster, I got a framed original marquee poster for the movie, and it says on it, if Adventure has a name, it has to be Indiana Jones. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny because in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he was intended to have lost the hat after he was on the U-boat, and that gray hat you see him wearing at the end, that was his replacement. You know, and I mean the hat wasn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it made the costume. It wasn't. Yeah. And then to have Grant here, mate, I don't think it's a callback to Harrison Ford originally going to be Grant. I don't think Harrison Ford would be still around if he did do Grant in the first film. He would have probably said goodbye to this franchise a long time ago. But
No. We do know that he can be bought back into a franchise.
Well, yeah, he probably would have been killed by the Pteranodons at the end of this film, if that was the case.
Yeah, really. I mean, for example, if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, Harrison Ford, but he loves the Indiana Jones character, but he was never big on the character of Han Solo, and he basically he wanted to kill the character off after Empire Strikes Back. And Lucas said no. He wanted to kill the character off in Return of the Jedi. Lucas said no. And finally, Disney brought him back one last time. And he was like, okay, I'll do it, but I need, like, a huge stack of cash.
Yeah, there's been a long history of actors in some of these big franchises. Sort of as the films go on progress, they have their own sort of demands and what they want to do with the film. I remember Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. Yeah, Aliens didn't want any guns, and that's why when we got back for Alien 3, there's no guns in that film whatsoever because she was producing by then. And then she had some other demands. She wanted to sleep with the alien and other things as well, which we sort of got in Resurrection. But yeah, that's been long sort of known talked about when Force Awakens was come out. Would Harrison Ford have his wish and finally die, or would Disney say, no, we want you for 3 more films? You get locked into a contract.
No, I guarantee you one of the conditions of him coming back to Star Wars was to permanently kill off the character,
Yep. But Alan takes a hat from Billy and says, oh, yeah, and seems choked up at it, and as he continues, well, that's the important thing, so he knows it's just a hat. He's more happy to see Billy alive here than the hat coming back, but the two smile again as Alan goes to his seat as they are all buckled in, and as the minute ends we get that theme music pick up again as we pan past the troops getting back in the landing craft and the Seahawk on their way out to the ocean, leaving the island behind. Anything on that you want to talk about before we get into novel and script comparisons?
No, I think that we've pretty much covered that one.
Alright. In the novel, we get Grant on their chopper discovering Billy, much like we do in the film. Grant apologises to Billy that this happened, and Billy responds, I don't even know how to say that. Billy can't really talk real well, but he says, are you kidding? You know the kind of stories, or great stories, I'll be able to tell now. Hey, it was worth it, and that's when we get the hat return. So Billy's a lot more upbeat about surviving the incident in the novel. A medic rests Billy's head down on the pillow as he drifts off to sleep again with medications, and the medic says he's lost a lot of blood, but he's going to make it. So we get a little bit there from a medic that we don't see in the film. And Grant straps into his seat and sitting back and relaxing for the first time in days as the chopper lifts into the air. So a little bit more there as well.
I do like the word kind of how he's saying relaxing for the first time in days, just because in the novel The Lost World, it's the island is described as a very, very stressful environment for the dinosaurs, and I can only imagine how it would be for a human stuck on the island to feel like being in this constant fear of being attacked.
Well, everything in that jungle can kill you. Even just plants or snakes, the non-dinosaur ways to go out as well in those tropical jungles. Spiders, yeah, it's not a very safe place, and it's even at the end of Jurassic Park when they're on the helicopter, the kids are sleeping and they're relaxing there as well, knowing that they're safe and flying to the mainland again. Over in the script, as we in the last minute, Grant had looked through the speedboat wreckage and had discovered the Frito tracks in the sand. And that's when he realised they weren't home free yet. 2 helicopters fly overhead and one starts to land. Alan runs forward yelling, no, stay back, they're in the trees. And that's when the tops of the trees begin to shake. At first it looks like the downwind from the chopper above, but then a pteranodon flies out of the foliage, followed by 20 more, and it's a terrifying sight. So again, we had it in the novelisation, and now we're going to have it in the script. The pteranodons attacking a helicopter once again.
They sure do like those pteranodons attacking the helicopters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Terrified, the Costa Rican chopper pilot veers away, but the Pteranodons are already on him. They smash at the window